Hey YouTube, in this video we're talking about how to sprint sub 11 seconds for the 100 meters. So obviously, whilst you're trying to get towards this stage in your journey, there are many things you're supposed to be doing. Working on your form, plyometrics, mobility, gym work, and a bunch of other stuff. However, making sure that the rest of this all stays constant, everything you're doing stays constant. If you truly want to sprint sub 11 seconds, then in my mind, there are like 4 things that you need to focus on that will help you actually get there the fastest. So first of all, making sure you focus on quality reps instead of quantity reps, because your body listens to quality very well, not quantity. If you just throw a lot of quantity at it, the quality has to drop. Hence, your body is going to give you a lower quality when it comes to actual races because it thinks this is where you want it to be, when in reality you want it to be as fast as possible. If you could get to sub 9 seconds, that would be great, for example. But if you just throw a lot of quantity at it, your body's not going to respond very well and it will slow you down, or make it so that you progress but at a much slower rate than you could have, because your potential might be to not just go 10.99 but go 10.8, 10.7, but purely because of the fact that you throw so much quantity at it, it has to deal with all of this quantity, and it has to adapt in a way where it can sustain such a high quantity without breaking down and maintain it. And it's like, okay, if I'm this fast, I can easily handle this quantity. I can maybe go a bit faster, and that's that, compared to a high quality where it's like, okay, this is really easy. Let's instead of focusing on trying to make it so that we're able to handle the workouts, let's make it so that we are able to get through the workouts faster. So making sure you focus on quality reps and quality workouts, making sure you rest for long enough would be very important towards going sub 11 seconds. Second of all, make sure the number one thing you work on whenever you're sprinting is sprint mechanics. Like, there should be days where you're out there on a track sprinting and maybe it's not a max velocity day. Or if you only have max velocity days, make sure you do have days where it's just literally you and your coach. If it's one-on-one, but even great, even better. And you just work on your mechanics, purely because if your mechanics are poor, you're not landing underneath your center of mass, your arms aren't spread out as far as possible, you don't have a slight forward lean, you're using the wrong muscles when you're supposed to be using different ones, you're not relaxed, what's going to end up happening is, I don't care if you're able to squat 200 kg ass to grass and you're able to deadlift like 300, for example, you're not going to be running very fast purely because you're not sprinting properly. Yeah, maybe if you was pulling those numbers, there's a good chance you might be able to go sub 11. However, you won't be able to use everything you have to achieve that sub 11. It'll just be like you're going to have to pound extremely hard to pull it off, because it is possible to go sub 11 with extremely high gym numbers and just essentially just push past the barrier. But it will be hard and it will still take a decent amount of effort to do. But once you've done that, what you're gonna realize is, once you broke past that barrier, this is essentially the cap you're at. You can't go any faster, and if you can, not by much. And the reason why you could go faster is because the race where you did go sub 11 wasn't your best race. The one where you PB'd again would have been your best race. So if you actually want to go sub 11, stay sub 11 and continue to progress to lower and lower times, so you can try and attack the sub 10 barrier, then making sure you work on your sprint mechanics is very important. Because if you're overstriding, you don't have full range of motion in your arms, that's going to limit your stride length, that's going to limit your stride frequency, and it's going to also limit your power. So say same numbers, you might only be putting in maybe 50 to 60% of what you could be putting in if you was able to have perfect sprint mechanics. Because if your sprint mechanics are incorrect, most likely you're using more of your muscles than you are of your tendons. And after the start, and once you get like halfway through the dry phase, you want to switch from muscular work to tendon work. Using your muscles throughout the entire race is not only extremely fatiguing, but it's very energy inefficient. So if you're not just trying to break sub 11, but you're trying to break sub 22, sub 40, 47 or 46, I think, then it's just going to be extremely hard, because your muscles won't be able to last for as long as you're going to want them to. It's just not going to happen. So making sure you actually use your tendons so you're able to be more energy efficient, your mechanics are better so you're able to just hold your form for longer and be much faster. It's extremely important, especially like I said, if you actually want to go not just sub 11, but you want to try and go sub 10 as well. Other than this, plyometrics. On a speed power diagram, I believe it's called, plyometrics are extremely focused on speed and power, purely because what happens is when you're in a gym, a lot of the focus is on pure power and some power speed. This is like the slow stuff like squats, deadlifts, and then power speeds being stuff like Olympic weightlifting. But majority of that power you've developed isn't extremely, it has been, some of it will have been transferred over to your fast twitch muscles, which you can use on the track, but a lot of it hasn't been. So what you're going to have to do is use plyometrics to try and transfer all of that over so you're able to actually perform better and sprint faster. Because if you're really poor in plyometrics, what ends up happening is there's weaknesses in your legs, which results in this poverty essentially in your plyos. You do plyos and it hurts. This is because first of all, your body's not used to doing plyos. Second of all, the muscles that are being activated whilst you're doing plyos aren't usually being fired, or they aren't used to being fired in this position. And making sure that they get comfortable in dealing with this is extremely important, because if they're not comfortable, that means you're not comfortable whilst you're sprinting. And plyos quite accurately mimic sprinting, especially if you're doing unilateral plyos. So what that's going to mean is your body's going to actively limit the force you're able to produce, so it's able to protect itself. So making sure you do a lot of plyos to strengthen your tendons and all the muscles in your legs, so it's actually able to sustain the forces you want to produce on the track, is extremely important. Because as long as you do plyos, what's going to end up happening is your force production is going to go up for two reasons. First of all, your tendons are much stronger, so they're able to produce more force, like a thicker elastic band with less force being given to them. And second of all, the reason being they're stronger, so they're actually able to produce, all the muscles in your legs are stronger, so they're actually able to produce the maximum amount of force they were able to produce. And these two just go in a circle with each other. Stronger tendons, more force. Strongest tendons, more force, which results in more power being produced on the track. And the second reason being reactivity. As long as you do a lot of plyos, you're going to be training your fast twitch muscles in a way where they react to the ground or react to certain positions in the air, which when you're sprinting is what you want, because you don't want to spend any excess air time. Otherwise, what you're essentially doing is a bound when you could be sprinting like you want to be. So making sure you do a lot of plyos. In fact, make sure your focus is less on working the gym and more on plyometrics, because making sure that your body is as strong and stable as possible, especially in a unilateral sense, is extremely important towards performing better. In fact, even if you was to drop the gym, which obviously I wouldn't recommend, if you was to drop the gym and just do plyometrics, what you realize is your gym numbers won't suffer. In fact, they will even go up as long as you do enough plyos and you do them in a right format. But like I said before earlier in this video, make sure these plyos are focused on quality, because your body sees plyos in a very similar way to how it does sprinting, but plyos are more intense than sprinting is to a certain degree. So making sure that you focus on quality reps, so your body doesn't just adapt to being able to sustain this load, which it won't be able to, and focuses more on being able to propel you further, is very important. Then other than that, it's mobility. That's it. Just make sure you work on your mobility. Note that there is a difference between mobility and flexibility. Flexibility is being able to get into certain positions whilst your muscles are passive, whilst mobility is being able to get into these same positions whilst your muscles are active. When you're sprinting, your muscles are actively being stretched and pulled, and if you're trying to have a longer stride length, obviously your legs are going to be very far away from your center of mass. If you don't have the mobility for any of this, first of all, you're not going to be strong in these positions, so you're going to be leaking energy. Second of all, your body won't be able to get to the best position it could have, purely because it doesn't want to injure itself. And the third reason being, literally, your body will just get injured in these positions. And obviously, if we're trying to perform well, we don't want to get injured. So making sure that we have the mobility to be able to maintain these positions in powerfully and not get injured because of these positions, which would lead to faster times, is extremely important, especially if you're trying to attack barriers like sub 11 and sub 10. If you like my video, like the video, let me know in the comments section below. Check the description, because anything I forget to say in the video, I always put in the description. And if you like my content, subscribe, helps the channel out a lot. I post every 2 days at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. If you don't know when that is, just hit the bell and then you'll be notified instantly.